If getting your child out the door feels like negotiating a hostage release every single morning, you're not imagining it and you're not alone. The screen off for dinner battle, the meltdown leaving the grocery store, the Sunday night dread before the school week even starts, the 45-minute standoff over a pair of socks. Transitions are one of the most common flashpoints for kids today, and they hit the hardest for kids with ADHD, anxiety, or sensory processing disorder. And the harder you try to manage the behavior, the more stuck everyone gets. Parents tell us all the time, I've tried every reward chart, every visual timer, every deep breath, and nothing sticks. Here's what most parenting advice misses. Smoother transitions aren't really a behavior problem. They're a nervous system issue. And once you understand what's actually happening in your child's brain and body during a change, everything can shift, including what kind of help actually moves the needle for you and your child. We see this every single week in our office. A parent walks in, exhausted, describing the same scene over and over again. Mornings end in tears, transitions at school require the teacher to step in, pickup is chaos, bedtime is a 2-hour standoff. All of these transitions can be big deals, and the child has often already been labeled, sometimes with ADHD, sometimes anxiety, sometimes sensory processing disorder. And this family has tried the therapies, right? The parenting books, the discipline charts, the accommodations at school, every transition tool that the internet recommends. And some of it helps a little bit, and some of it doesn't help because none of it really gets to the root. So the parent says something or some version of the same thing. I feel like I'm failing, and I want to be clear, you're not. They're navigating a child whose nervous system just can't downshift, and no amount of better parenting can change that on its own. Here's what's interesting. The numbers actually back up why there is struggles clustering together. So there's a 2022 national survey that found that anxiety was one of the most common co-occurring conditions in kids with ADHD, affecting roughly 4 in 10 children. And that overlap is not a coincidence. These conditions share a common neurological root. You're chasing symptoms in a system that simply doesn't have the capacity to settle. So let me show you what's actually happening. Here's the thing about a transition. It asks the brain to do 3 things at once: disengage from what it's doing, hold the next step in mind, and then shift gears. And researchers actually have a name for this skill. They call it set shifting, moving attention from one task to another. And it runs on executive function in the prefrontal cortex, which keeps maturing all the way into the mid-20s. So for kids with ADHD, anxiety, or sensory challenges, these circuits develop differently. And the harder the brain is already working, the more taxing every single switch becomes. Which means a small request like put your shoes on can land like a much bigger one. So here's what happens next. Think of the autonomic nervous system, that's the automatic part of the nervous system, like a car with a gas pedal and a brake pedal. So the sympathetic branch, that's the fight or flight side of things, that is the gas pedal. Activation, alertness, go, go, go. The parasympathetic branch is your rest and digest system. It's the brake system. It's calm, it's regulation, the ability to adapt. It's also where development happens. And a lot of kids today are living with a stuck gas pedal on and a weak brake driven by an underactive vagus nerve. There's a name for this imbalance. It's called dysautonomia, and it keeps the body in a low-grade state of alarm. So ordinary change registers as a threat, and then the meltdown follows. Now, the diagnose on the chart may be different, but the underlying neurological pattern looks strikingly similar. All 3 involve sympathetic dominance and a reduced capacity for flexible, regulated brain states. So, a child with ADHD finds it almost physically painful to break away from a preferred activity. A child with anxiety is flooded with worry before that change even arrives. And a child with sensory processing disorder is already overworking just to process sound, light, and touch. And I want you to hear this. That's why behavior charts so often fall flat. You can't discipline a nervous system into regulating. So how does a nervous system end up like this? We call it the perfect storm. It's a stack of early stressors that overwhelm a developing nervous system. It often starts with prenatal stress, where cortisol crosses the placenta. It can prime the baby for hypersensitivity. And then birth trauma, C-section, forceps, vacuum, induction, stalled labor, that can strain the upper neck, especially where the brainstem sits, and it's a very important part of the nervous system. And then the early years pile on: antibiotics, ear infections, falls, screens, overstimulating world, more overstimulating than it ever has been in the history of humankind. And each stressor on its own might not be a big deal, but when stacked together, they leave the system stuck on the gas pedal. And the result is subluxation, neurological interference that keeps the stress response locked on. So let's actually talk about what you can actually do. First, give previews and countdowns so the brain has time to prepare instead of getting blindsided. Second, build predictable routines. The same sequence every morning turns transitions into habits. And third, add movement. A quick stretch, a set of jumping jacks helps discharge that stress energy. Fourth, protect sleep. That's when the brain recharges its regulatory capacity. And fifth, stay regulated yourself, because kids co-regulate with the adults around them. And here's the last piece. When those home strategies aren't enough, that's not a failure. That's a signal. It means the nervous system needs deeper support. If your child keeps melting down through every transition, no matter what you try, it's not a parenting failure. It's not a discipline problem. And it's not something they'll just grow out of on their own. It's a sign their nervous system needs more support than home strategies alone can give. Here at the Well Healing Center, I'm Dr. Michelle Green, and we use advanced scans to see what's going on in your child's nervous system. Heart rate variability, surface EMG, thermal scanning, to see exactly where the nervous system is stuck and what's driving that dysregulation. And from there, gentle specific adjustments to help restore balance, ease off the gas pedal, bring the brake pedal back online. And as that happens, parents tell us the daily flashpoints start to soften. Easier mornings, fewer meltdowns, smoother bedtimes, more flexibility when plans change. Your child doesn't need more labels, they need answers. So click the link in the description of this video, send us a DM, or go ahead and schedule www.thewellhealingcenter.com/book new, and let's see what's going on